Good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin Hodge. Tonight on your WZMQ 19 News, a government shutdown is looming and lawmakers are already pointing fingers. We'll have the latest live from Washington, D.C. And this past Saturday saw a protest in Marquette held by those upset over the removal of Jimmy Kimmel. Your 19 News at 6 starts now.
Live from the UP, this is WZMQ 19 News at 6.
Kelly, good evening. The rain appears to be over, but we certainly had our fair share today.
Yeah, Kevin, good evening, and good evening to everyone. We did see some rain. It's been a bit scattered on and off, and we're making our way to some more clear skies. Still cloudy, though, on our One Marquette Place sky cam here, and we are precisely in the middle of this low-pressure system circulation here. You can see the counterclockwise motion, so we might get clipped with a bit of that tail-end rain for the rest of this evening. Temperatures right now into the mid-60s for us into Marquette, some upper 60s down to the southern portions of the Upper Peninsula, and we'll keep the 60s and the upper 50s into the overnight with some cloudy skies, but we will get some decent clearing for the end of the week and into the weekend. I'll have all those details very shortly.
Kelly, thank you very much. In Kingsford, a man is in the hospital after crashing his motorcycle into a guardrail last night. Around 9:40 p.m., Kingsford Public Safety was called to the scene on the corner of South Westwood Avenue and West Brighton Avenue, where the driver was lying in the road. Officers determined that the motorcyclist was ejected when he crashed into the guardrail. He was transported to Marshfield Dickinson Hospital, where he remains with potentially life-threatening injuries. Speed and alcohol are believed to be contributing factors to the crash. The clock is ticking, and Washington is once again playing chicken with a government shutdown. There's just over 1 week before funding lapses and the federal government shuts down if there's no deal. Our Washington, D.C. correspondent Brendan Scanlon is live on Capitol Hill. And Brendan, good evening. Right now the lawmakers aren't even in Washington. What can you tell us?
Hey there, Kevin. Good evening. Yeah, it's been a pretty quiet day here on Capitol Hill. The players are not even in the arena. Lawmakers left on Friday after the House passed a Republican short-term spending proposal, but that same measure failed in the Senate. Now, lawmakers on both sides are trying to pin the blame on the other side. And with just 8 days to go until a shutdown deadline, experts I spoke with say they believe we are headed towards that. Just 8 days remain for Congress to approve yet another short-term funding plan known as a continuing resolution, a CR that simply extends current funding levels and allows more time to draft new, comprehensive spending measures. But with no real progress in Washington, the blaming has already begun.
This is their only way to even begin to think about how can I get some control back. I'll shut down the government and blame it on the Republicans.
Well, Republicans want to keep the government open, and the Democrats, based on what I believe is the Schumer strategy, is a shutdown strategy. It is their goal to shut down the government.
Republicans say their proposal is a standard clean CR, the same that's been used by Congress several times to kick the can down the road. Democrats disagree and are leaning on their one source of leverage, the Senate filibuster. Even with a majority, Republicans don't have the 60 votes needed to advance legislation. Democrats are demanding extensions for Affordable Care Act tax credits and a rollback of Medicaid cuts from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act.
It's the Republicans shutting down the government. First, these issues are very important to the American people. Healthcare was decimated. People are losing their health care. Hospitals are closing. People are losing their jobs. It's outrageous, and the American people can't stand it.
But with lawmakers absent this week and no meetings nor negotiations, experts say all signs are pointing toward a shutdown.
I think we get one, and then I think it has to happen for at least a week or two.
Dr. Todd Belt says it's a politically risky move for Democrats.
It looks like it's up to the Democrats to decide if they want to force a shutdown, and they are doing that. Usually the blame falls on whoever's trying to force the shutdown, and this time it looks like the Democrats. They may be overplaying their hand a bit here.
Kevin, those ACA or Obamacare tax credits have really become a focal point in this funding battle. Republicans have hinted that they might be open to a temporary extension of those ACA tax credits, but not a permanent one. And Democrats are looking for a permanent extension. So we'll have to see what happens there. But keep in mind, it was in March when the last CR was passed, and that was when Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer ultimately sided with Republicans to avoid a shutdown and passed the CR. Schumer did face a lot of backlash because of that decision. We're going to have to wait and see if that's the case this time around or if the government does in fact shut down. Reporting live on Capitol Hill for WZMQ 19 News, I'm Brendan Scanlon. Kevin, back to you.
Brendan, thank you very much, as always. A peaceful protest took place in downtown Marquette this past weekend. Demonstrators gathered to speak out against what they're calling censorship from the Trump administration. The rally was reportedly organized in response to the recent suspension of Jimmy Kimmel's show, which organizers believe was the result of pressure from the Trump administration over remarks he made following the death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Protesters held signs supporting free speech and chanted calls to protect the First Amendment. Organizers say they are criticizing what they describe as government interference in media. Protesters say they plan to continue weekly rallies to voice their concerns. Earlier today, it was announced that Jimmy Kimmel would return as the host of his show this Tuesday. Your first warning weather forecast is after the break, plus transportation services in the UP are sounding off on the reduced funding they're seeing for their programs. And later, Jim Koski's here for Life in the 906. He'll tell us about a few things that are hard to explain about the UP. We'll be right back after this.
Now, WZMQ TV 19 First Warning Weather with meteorologist Kelly Rowland.
Welcome back and happy Monday to everyone. No, this isn't a live camera at this very moment, but this was less than an hour ago on our One Marquette Place sky cam. So thanks to our director for screenshotting this. This was just absolutely beautiful rainbow. You can really see all the Roy G. Biv very crisp in there. And it was just a lovely evening getting that rain cleared out of here. Nice little reset, not only for the start of the week, but for the start of a new season. Today is officially fall. As of 2:19 p.m., you can no longer say it is summer. We are now in the autumnal equinox where the sun's rays is directly over the equator and nearly an equal amount of daylight today. We do have 12 hours and 9 minutes, so it's not exactly 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night, but equinox is Latin for equal night. This is the day where we are closest to that equal amount, and every day now until the winter solstice, we lose a little bit of that daylight, the later sunrise, the earlier sunset. It's going to be kind of that time in the winter where you leave work and you come back from work and it's still dark out for both of those time. So take in all the sunshine that you can, take in all the beauty of fall. We are near peak or at peak for some areas into the Marquette area, but really for the most part, we're either patchy, moderate, near peak. And of course, please submit your pictures. Would love to see all the beautiful fall leaves that we have out there. It does actually feel like fall, which is nice today, 67 degrees when the average is 64, so not too far off at all. Very mild overnight temperatures, though, of 61. The average is 44. So we stayed pretty similar in the overnight temperatures to now. Not too much of a warm up with the rain cooled air for today. 64 into Marquette right now, 67 out to Ironwood, 64 out to Newberry. So we're all upper 50s, mid 60s, of course, down to Menominee. We are slightly warmer with those upper 60s, and we do have some varying winds here, mainly because it's the low pressure system that we're basically in the middle of right now is making its way through, and we'll kind of still feel the effects and see the effects of this low pressure system moving out of here. Now, this particular system did have some severe thunderstorm warnings way down here into north of Milwaukee and in between Green Bay here, because there was some rotation. We are seeing some severe thunderstorm warnings and even tornado watches popping on up down south. But for now, any rain that we do see, it's very well behaved. It's very minimal, not seeing too much for the rest of this evening. So we should be clear for most of that rain for today. But you can see the counterclockwise circulation of the low pressure continuing to move out. Now, the rain may move out, but the skies won't necessarily clear very quickly. We'll still keep the skies very cloudy for us for Tuesday, and then Wednesday we'll really get a nice clear up and get some sunshine, some warmer temperatures, definitely that won't feel like fall. Some still mild conditions holding on. But now the rain, this is advancing. Not much is being added, so we're really not expecting too much more in the way of rain accumulation for the rest of the evening and into tomorrow. We're not seeing too much rain here either. It's going to be a fairly dry week ahead. We'll have isolated drops here and there, mostly cloudy. We'll clear things out, get some upper 60s, lower 70s for you just ahead of the weekend, with a fairly seasonal average weekend ahead for the first weekend of fall.
Kelly, thanks again. After years of underfunding, Michigan's public transit systems could be facing dramatic losses, even while the state has seen a high increase in usage since 2020. WZMQ's Andrew Hans has more.
Regular access to public transportation in Upper Michigan could be at stake as the lowest proposed funds ever provided to the state's local bus operation makes its way into the fiscal year budget. The Michigan Public Transit Association says since the turn of the century, its funding hasn't even shifted enough to cover inflation or to match with regular road repairs.
Over the last 25 years or so, the transit funding from the state of Michigan has grown at less than half the rate of inflation and just 1/3 the rate of the growth in road funding.
The coming year may see less availability in staffing, such as drivers or mechanics.
I'm already in a situation where it's extremely hard to hire a mechanic or a driver right now, and this just really compounds the problem.
Parts have gone up. Prices of buses have almost doubled. So, the industry is hurting right now.
Over 550,000 rides were made across the Upper Peninsula last year. And with cuts like these, access to education, jobs, and healthcare could become a difficult journey.
We see a lot of elderly people that can't drive anymore. The family member can't take the time off of work to bring them to their appointments. So that's we take up that spot for those people.
It's going to limit our operations on weekends and holidays. Transit rides may be cut, regional route runs may be cut, which is a lifeline for patients coming from Alger County to Marquette for dialysis.
The ongoing budgeting issues can also create more of a blur in what will happen in the long run.
It's very difficult to do multi-year planning 1, 2, 3 years out when we have annual appropriations and state funding. It's extremely difficult this year because the budget's later than it normally would be.
With just over a week left to pass, transit authorities are working alongside state legislators for more funding to continue to provide Upers with attainable transportation. Reporting in Marquette, Andrew Hans, WZMQ 19 News.
Coming up next, President Trump's administration says there's a link between Tylenol and autism. We'll have the latest when we come back.
You're watching WZMQ 19 News, live and local, with Kevin Hodge.
Welcome back, everyone. President Trump is preparing to make a link between autism and the common drug found in pain relievers like Tylenol. But that link has been disputed by most in the scientific community. Erica Brown has more details from the White House.
President Trump says the use of acetaminophen, the active ingredient in Tylenol during pregnancy, could be linked to the development of autism in children.
You know, the way I look at it, don't take it. Don't take it. There's no downside in not taking it.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who joined President Trump for the White House announcement, has called the rise of autism cases an epidemic.
One area that we are closely examining, as the president mentioned, is vaccines. Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine.
Research has repeatedly debunked links between childhood vaccines and autism. The medical community has largely assessed a number of factors could contribute to the development of autism in children, and that the use of acetaminophen during pregnancy is safe. Canview, the makers of Tylenol, issued a statement saying taking acetaminophen does not cause autism. We strongly disagree with any suggestion otherwise and are deeply concerned with the health risks this poses for expecting mothers.
Tylenol, acetaminophen, is safe in pregnancy. If you have a high fever during pregnancy, that can cause neurodevelopment issues in the baby. So you don't want to let that fever go untreated.
Right.
And, you know, pregnant women may have pain, and that's not something that should go untreated either.
Dr. Celine Gounder, CBS News' medical contributor, says today's announcement could have unintended consequences, leading to confusion among pregnant women on which drugs could be taken safely.
President Trump heads to New York this evening, where he'll attend this week's session of the United Nations General Assembly. The war in Gaza is front and center as more countries move to recognize Palestinian statehood, though not the U.S. Jared Hill has more from the UN.
At the 80th UN General Assembly, France and Saudi Arabia are driving the charge to convene a conference on a two-state solution as Israel's war in Gaza rages on. The push to recognize a Palestinian state has become a central theme of this year's meetings. French President Emmanuel Macron says the plan would recognize a reformed Palestinian Authority, which currently controls the West Bank. Several Western countries have formally signed on, including the UK, Canada, Australia, and Portugal.
We are acting to keep alive the possibility of peace.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer at the same time denounced Hamas and called for the terror group to release the hostages taken in its October 7th attack on Israel.
Hamas is a brutal terror organization. Our call for a genuine two-state solution is the exact opposite of their hateful vision.
This attempt to recognize a Palestinian state puts close U.S. allies at odds with the former policy of the United States as well as Israel, with Israel's prime minister arguing it rewards Hamas for terrorism.
The people of Israel pray for peace. We want to have peace, but we want to know that we have a partner for that.
Peace talks have come within reach in the past, only to end in violence and disappointment. Hamas is formally committed to Israel's destruction, and Israel has vowed to continue its war in Gaza until Hamas is driven from power.
There is no ceasefire deal on the horizon. There is no real pathway to the release of the Israeli hostages. So is this the right moment, I think, is a valid question to be asking on the point of recognition.
The U.S.'s longtime position is that it supports the goal of a Palestinian state, but not until the two sides negotiate the terms. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
Jim Koski is next for Life in the 906. He's going to give me another lesson on the Upper Peninsula. We'll be right back. We need a mic check from Jim.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Well, hello there, Jim Koski. You're here to give me another lesson on the UP, I believe.
I am, although you really do need to eat your pasty sometime, Kevin. I'm just saying. Now, I spend a lot of time speaking to people who are visiting the UP, and every so often I get asked about one of our many cultural quirks. And I'm using quirk in a good way. After all, living in a place that's relatively isolated, like the UP, can lead to a few unique habits or practices that may seem strange to outsiders. To us, they're part of everyday life, but to people who aren't totally immersed in Upper culture, they can be slightly hard to explain. And I'm not just talking about people who believe Bigfoot lives in their backyard or those who believe there's an R in Ishpeming. Nope, when I'm explaining things, I'm talking about items such as why Upers have two cars, a nice one for summer and a beater for winter. Why some people still mourn the fact that Shopko is no longer around. Why Trinary is known for both toast and outhouses, and how there's nothing at all wrong with either of them. I've also had to explain why a hat is called a chook, boots can be called rubbers, and certain kind of shirts are literally just referred to as flannels. I've explained why November 15th is, for some Upers, a national holiday, why dem, dare, and dat are perfectly acceptable permutations of words in the English language, why some residents from Ironwood have spent over the years a little too much time in Hurley, and why it's not unusual and in fact can be quite culturally appropriate to dunk burned cheese into a scalding cup of strong black coffee. Now, every area has its own set of habits that make it unique, and the fact that ours are so out of the ordinary and sometimes bewildering to those who visit us, well, that just means that we live in the most magical place of all. I'm Jim Koski. Kevin really needs to eat his pasty. And that's another slice of life in the 906.
Jim, I said if you were going to mention that, I was going to get up from the desk and come basically tackle you, but you get lucky today, my friend. I don't feel like it. Thank you so much, Jim. And don't forget to join Jim weekday afternoons on Q107 WMQT. Humans have been making wine for thousands of years, and like seemingly every other industry, artificial intelligence is getting involved to help. Nick Zechovich looks at how one vineyard in Napa County, California is using the new technology.
In the darkness of Gamble Estates, vineyard workers harvesting grapes will soon have a little extra help.
We're harvesting Sauvignon Blanc, and we're using the electric mode of the tractor.
That tractor has an artificial intelligence component collecting data to optimize water and chemical usage. It's also getting the lay of the land, and eventually will use the map to drive itself up and down the rows of grapes.
It'll get to the end of the row and turn around and come back around. It's actually a less of a complex operation than, say, a Waymo in San Francisco.
With U.S. alcohol consumption at a 90-year low, winemakers say economizing is crucial.
Everything from labor shortages to uncertainty in markets is squeezing the margins of every vineyard.
Kia Benya is the co-founder of Scout, a Napa startup that uses AI to analyze images of the vines. The app lets vineyards know what they can expect to harvest and can warn them of potential devastating disease.
So AI can go through millions and millions of photos and zero in on the areas that require human attention. In some ways, we say we're like an X-ray for the vineyard. We're like a blood test for the vineyard.
Back on Gamble Estates, owner Tom Gamble's strategy to harness the new technology is to support his employees, not replace them as they cultivate future crops.
Now don't go away. When we come back, Kelly Rowland has our final look at weather. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. We're past the heaviest rain for this evening. We're still seeing that counterclockwise circulation on the radar. That's that low pressure system. We might get clipped with some very isolated showers for the rest of tonight. Shouldn't be too much though. Can't rule out some patchy fog as well for tonight with temperatures into the upper 50s and the lower 60s. A nice way to wind down the first day of fall. And as we get into the first week of fall, we will have those fall-like temperatures into the mid to lower 60s. Some mild days at times with lots of sunshine, so we'll clear out the cloud cover and much more sunshine on the way for the weekend.
Sounds good to me. Thanks, Kelly. Finally, tonight over the weekend, WZMQ 19 was once again proud to sponsor the annual UP Ice Fishing and Hunting Expo in Escanaba. This was the Daily Press's 4th year hosting the expo, which featured this season's newest gear for every kind of outdoorsman. It was an opportunity for attendees to stock up on ammunition, bait, lures, and other supplies, and a chance for local and downstate businesses to reach new customers.
Every year it's getting bigger and better, and we love coming back with the Daily Press. We've been working together to make it a bigger, exciting, and more, all-around fun time here.
It's pretty profitable, and I can even stop at some places on the way home, and I can distribute some of my inventory there too.
In place of an admission fee, attendees brought donations for the Seventh-day Adventist Food Pantry and the Delta Animal Shelter. That's all we have for now, everyone. We'll see you later tonight.